All right, hello. Welcome to your second learning module. This week you will be focusing primarily on the antibiotic use in really livestock, right? So farm animals that we are using for slaughter purposes. So we're looking at primarily cattle, pigs. We might be looking a little bit at sheep, goats. Those are certainly less popular within our food systems. But then the big one is chicken. And so this week you'll be focusing on that information within this learning module. So there's a couple of things that I just want to provide some feedback on, but then I also just want to highlight that are in that second learning module. So hopefully you've kind of started to learn Blackboard and the way that this course is built. I did post a reminder just letting you know that your week 1 stuff was due, and so hopefully you saw that, and we are moving to that due date calendar, so you want to make sure that you're being very, very mindful of that. I will tell you that I have started grading some of your assignments, so the very first little piece of feedback I want to give is to make sure that you're going to your My Grades and that you're viewing any of those assignments that have a grade associated with them. Some of your quizzes and things are auto-graded, but definitely like your discussion boards as we move along, if there's any journals, those sorts of things, I will provide feedback for those. So if you're not getting full credit for those things, make sure that you're coming back and you're checking on your grades to verify that you are maximizing the points that you should. I will tell you that one of the common things that I've been seeing is the replies to the peers. So you definitely want to make sure you're following the standard in terms of what needs to make up your initial post. But then once you've made that post, I've used the language, a thoughtful response to your peers. And maybe I need to broaden that a little bit more. So a thoughtful response is really something along the lines of, you said this is how I feel, this is why I feel this way. A thoughtful response, I would say, is probably the same 3 to 5 sentence type response, but not 3 to 5 sentences like, that's awesome, period, I agree, thanks for sharing. That's not a thoughtful response. And so I kind of gave you a little bit of leeway this first go around in your discussion boards, but as we move forward, I really want you to pay attention to how am I responding to my peers and really engaging in a conversation, not just I'm here to check a box to get my points for replying to my peers, if that makes sense. So what's out there for week 2? So your learning module 2, like I said, is all about this idea of antibiotic use within primarily livestock. Like I said, there is a focus on chicken. If you haven't read the book Big Chicken by Maren McKenna, she does a really good job. It is a little bit slanted, but she does a good job of providing a historical perspective of really how we've arrived to this place, and highlights some research that was found around adding antibiotics to livestock feed and how that increased the rate of gain so you could get an animal to slaughter faster. And so farmers were like, this is awesome because I can keep my herd healthy preemptively, right? I can get them to slaughter faster, and then they're bigger, right? So there's a picture in your checklist that walks you through kind of how the size of a chicken has changed. And that's not only attributed to antibiotics within feed, but certainly we did learn that by placing that in our livestock's food, that we could increase our rate of gain and get them to slaughter quicker. So lots of benefits to that if you are on the farmer side in terms of cost and those sorts of things. So as you come out and take a look at this, this week, the ethical theory that we will focus on is egoism. So remember, this is an E-designated course, and so there is an ethical component to it. And so we do have to walk through those different ethical theories. So this week, I want you to apply egoism to this idea of antibiotic use. So Within the module, you're going to see that there's a little PowerPoint slide that gives you a high-level synopsis of what egoism is. There is a PDF file that you can open that's also like a one-page highlight on egoism, and then there's a video here that walks you through egoism. Egoism is really exactly how it sounds. So really self-interest, right? I would encourage you to think about that in a way that's not always negative. So egoism can certainly be negative, but it can also be positive. And so certainly as you're navigating through those materials, think about what that means to you and maybe apply egoism in some of the situations that you've had within your life, and think, was that a time that maybe I was being egotistical or exhibiting or being influenced by that theory of egoism? So you'll be introduced to that, and then we'll start walking you through the logistics of antibiotic use and really introducing you to this topic and giving you some more information. So there's a historical component here that kind of walks you through how we've arrived where we've arrived. And then remember, this is a global perspective course, so I'm trying to present you with both sides of the issue. So there's a couple of articles and videos that definitely support the use of antibiotics within livestock and feed animals. And then there's a couple of articles and information there that reject that or deny the use or this idea that we would be using antibiotics within livestock. So you'll go through and view that information. There's a couple of videos there that you can take a peek at. And then you have a quiz this week. I will say, just as a little like FYI, if you're looking for a tip and trick related to a quiz as you move throughout the semester, the quizzes always have to do with everything within the learning module. And so when you click on this quiz is going to give you a brief description. It tells you you have 60 minutes to complete it. You only have one attempt. You can save it and resume it later, but know that you only have one chance to submit the quiz. So be mindful of that. Be ready for that. Make sure that you've reviewed all of the material within the module before you launch that quiz, because you only have that one attempt. So there is that quiz out there related to the course materials. And then we move into the discussion board, which, remember, you have to create your own thread first before you can access what everyone else has to say. But the discussion board this week in this format will largely follow the same throughout the semester. So really thinking about, why is this a food issue? How can I apply specifically egoism to this specific topic? So this antibiotic use in livestock, and really think about that from a broad perspective. So who is in the food industry? If I'm going to apply egoism, could I say that the manufacturers are exhibiting egotistical qualities? Could I say that it's farmers that are being egotistical? Could I say that it's big pharmaceutical companies that are being so there's lots of ideas, right? So really think about it from this broad perspective, and then how do I hone in and really identify somebody within that system or group of people within that system that is being egotistical, and then explain that. And then we move into this question really related to, why is this a food issue? And think about it on, again, this like local, state, national, but then global level, right? Because this is a global perspective course. So global could mean, how does this impact my community? How does this impact the state, the United States, those sorts of things. So talk about that. We also have information in there related to, what did you find that supports the use? What did you find that rejects the use? And then finally, you need to form an opinion. So you really need to think through, now that I've read this information, now that I've been introduced to this topic, now that I feel like I have a better understanding of this, how do I feel about this specific issue? And remember, this is where there is no right or wrong answer, right? So this is where I talk a lot about respectful community. This is where I talk a lot about your opinion is your opinion, and I'm so thrilled that you're sharing it. And as you're going out and reading what other opinions are being shared. Be mindful of that. Respectfully disagree. But also, just respectfully disagree if you're typing up a response and those viewpoints don't necessarily land with your viewpoints. This week, you're also going to contribute to your first current event. So last week, we introduced you to all of the different websites, and there's certainly gobs more. I just wanted to kind of provide you some space where you could hopefully find some valid sources for different current events as we're moving throughout the semester. But this week, you will make your first contribution. So you'll go out and find something related to a food issue, right? So this can be anything. I was listening to the news yesterday, and of course, COVID is still very much playing a role on our food systems. It's playing a role on our prices within the grocery store, our ability to source food quickly, those sorts of things. So there's lots of news out there related to your food. So once you find something, you're going to follow these instructions, right? So you're going to provide the link to your source so that we can actually go out and view your source and make sure it is reliable, that it's not coming from The Onion or someplace like that. And then you're going to provide a synopsis for us. So you're going to give us kind of a high-level summary of what's going on with this food issue in the news. And then you're going to talk about really your final thoughts. So is this a food issue? Do I agree with this issue? Do I disagree? Why is this really interesting? Wow, this is something I never even heard of, and now maybe I'm going to be more mindful of this, those sorts of things. So after you've had a chance to post that, you'll do just like your discussion boards, and you'll go out and you'll see what your peers are posting and what they're finding in the news as well. And you want to make sure that you're replying to those as well. So those are the things that you will be doing for your module this week. I encourage you to reach out to me if you have any questions, comments, or concerns. I've been very responsive via email. I am in my office hours if you need to chat with me during my office hours. And make sure that you're checking your grades for that necessary feedback. I always tell students, everybody can get an A. You just need to make sure that you're submitting your work on time and that you're checking that feedback so that you know how to maximize and get the best grade possible. So with that, I will say have a fantastic week, and reach out if you need help with anything.